Hey everyone, it's Josh here. Here is my official and honest review of the tomb. Before we get into the actual review, I have to go over some changes that were made between this map's release and Citadel Day More. Finally, after months, we have received the co-op pause. This is something that I thought was going to be available at launch, but it's good to see finally return. But unfortunately, the 15-minute pause timer from solo is still here, and once you run through your 15 minutes, you are no longer able to pause your game. Since adding an AFK timer to zombies, there's been a big issue with being kicked for going to the bathroom or looking up an Easter egg step. It was super annoying when this happened, and when loading back into your match, you lost all your stuff. With the new AFK loadout recovery, you are able to get your weapons back, and the game treats it like you died rather than being a new player. Now, with the new updates out of the way, we have some new toys that we have to discuss. Death Perception is the next perk introduced into Black Ops 6, and this perk lets you see enemies through walls, and yeah, that is all. The augments for this perk don't do it any justice. I just can't believe, after 3 games, they still make this perk worse and worse every time they introduce it. Overall, this is a perk that I will never be buying under normal circumstances. The only other new weapon that they added was the War Machine. The War Machine is a 3-round burst explosive weapon with 30 bullets in the mag, and this gun is pretty fun. It's nothing to write home about, but if you pick it up off the ground, it's definitely something worth using. And the tomb doesn't introduce a new ammo mod or specialist, so let's get into the gameplay of the map. The map layout is just one big circle. Once you spawn in, you have the option to go left or right. After making your decision, you open up to one of the sides of the map. And after opening one more door, you make it to the top of the circle where you can enter the Dark Aether. And once you enter the Dark Aether, you will hear a very familiar tune. And if you haven't guessed it, I'll give you a minute to listen to it. Well, if you still haven't guessed it, it's from Origins. Don't worry, this map takes a lot of inspiration from Origins, which I'll be getting into later, but this map actually reminds me a lot of Revelations. Revelations basically has the same design, with it being a big circle and a big island in the middle, connected by 4 teleporters. But where these two ideas differ is that in Revelations, the circle part of the map isn't just a straight line. You had stairs you can go up, you had twists and turns, and overall you just weren't going one direction when traversing the map. The only part of the map layout that I enjoyed is the area by Deadshot. It's not a complete straight line, and you can jump from left to right, making it less boring to walk. If they wanted to make this map more circular, they could have added more verticality to make the map feel more unique. Imagine if you had the rappel to get further down into the dig site, and maybe even have a little swimming section, or even use a minecart as a fast travel. Anything to make the traversal more unique. But since they skimped out on the map's design, they actually made up for it in the visuals. This map is one of the most visually stunning maps that we've seen in modern zombies. My favorite area is the area by Quick Revive. It actually feels like you're deep in the dig site, and this cave is like a hidden gem, locked away for centuries. The Dark Aether is another place that is very visually pleasing. It's another place that reminds me of Revelations, but this time I like the inspiration. The last area that I want to mention is the spawn room. Despite the map being set during the daytime, I still think it looks like a zombies map when first spawning in. A spawn room sets the tone for the entire rest of the map, and I feel like from a visual perspective, this is done perfectly. If you remember earlier when I said we'd have more Origins inspirations, well, the Ice Staff is returning. You unlock this weapon by first killing a shock mimic, and it drops a monocle on the ground. Once getting the monocle, you move these fire traps in front of 2 murals. Once you hit the symbols in numbered order, you can start a lockdown, and once completing the lockdown, you can do another lockdown to build the first stage of the Ice Staff. The unupgraded Ice Staff is super underwhelming and borderline unusable, but luckily you're able to upgrade the staff. The first step requires you to freeze 3 of the lanterns within 10 seconds, and once you do this, Archibald will let you know that you have completed this step. After that, you shoot 3 more rocks in the Dark Aether, and these rocks will reveal symbols. You then go back to the main part of the map and type the symbols into a closed portal, and once you do one more final lockdown, you complete the upgrade and will be able to upgrade the Ice Staff. This wonder weapon and its quest really has me torn. On one hand, I really enjoy the quest and the wonder weapon, but they have my annoyances. Starting off with what I like about the quest, I actually really like the first part. Having multiple lockdowns to unlock the weapon is a very good design decision. It makes you invest in your power early so that you aren't neglecting your second weapon in favor of the Ice Staff. I also like the freezing fire step. If you have fires that are too far away, you are unable to do this step, so it makes you think ahead and move them before you get to the step. But I have a couple gripes that all involve the upgrade part of the quest. Starting off with the rock step. Why are the rocks so hard to see? I know, I understand, I play on 120 FOV, but I shouldn't be punished for playing the way I want to play. I either have to have one of my friends look at the symbols, I have to crank up my FOV, to be able to see them. Another issue I have is the final lockdown/escort step. It is very unclear if I need to kill any of the zombies to progress. It seems that if I just leave all the zombies alive, I can just walk with the orb and complete the step. This is, however, a small nitpick. And now with the quest out of the way, we can look at the wonder weapon itself. The ice staff, like I said earlier, unupgraded, is borderline useless. It reminds me of a nerfed Winter's Howl, where it was only allowed to kill one zombie at a time. I'm not sure why the unupgraded shot doesn't at least have more spread, so that it can hit more than 2 zombies, like it does on Origins. The unupgraded version also has some downgrades from Origins. In Origins, the staff had a visual indicator on when the ice staff was fully charged. In BO2, it was the crystals glowing up, and BO3, it was the lights on the ice staff. So you would never have a scenario where you're shooting the wrong kind of shot. But in Black Ops 6, this just happens all of the time. You basically have to guess when your ice staff is fully charged, and sometimes it shoots a charged shot, and other times it just shoots a regular shot. And especially in the high rounds, this can destroy a run and cause you to go down. This map only really has one trap, and this is the arrow trap. The arrow trap is found in multiple parts of the map, and when active, shoots arrows out, killing all zombies that walk through. This trap is alright. It reminds me a lot of the electric trap, where you just lead zombies through, and honestly isn't too special, and doesn't do anything too remarkable. This point is going to sound super redundant, but why are we still using old enemies? This map didn't even attempt to cut one, and they just keep adding on every single map. The amalgams, the doppelgas, the parasites, the vermin, they just keep adding on. I wish the boss enemies were super unique to each map, or at least give them a skin change to make them feel more at home with the map that they're on. But we do have one new enemy type to discuss. The Shock Mimic. The Shock Mimic is a twist on the original mimics from Cold War. Not only do they retain their original abilities, like camouflage, but also have new electric type attacks. Electric moves are in 2 of their attacks. First, we have the grab, that once you are grabbed, you are stunned for a small period of time, being only able to use one-hand attacks. The biggest detriment to this is the ice staff, which needs 2 hands to use its charge shot. So in the high rounds, if you get grabbed by a mimic and you are not prepared, you will just go down. The other instance is when throwing equipment. All equipment will be destroyed if thrown next to a shock mimic. Things like Sebtex and even Gersh devices are not safe from this. The only exception is the monkey bombs, which makes them just a little more useful than they are in other maps. The shock mimic infuriates me for multiple reasons. The first reason is the camouflage ability that it has. If you guys haven't played the campaign, I am going to spoil a minor part of one of the missions. You are hit with toxic gas and are hallucinating and see a bunch of zombies. This mission is split up into 4 different sections, and each section has a boss fight. A lot of these boss enemies were already zombies that were in the game already, like the Abomination and the Manglers. One of the boss enemies that wasn't available in Zombies at launch was the Mimic. In this fight, the Mimic hides around in different objects inside the arena. This could be things like chairs and newspapers. So when going into the tomb and seeing that Mimics were going to be in the map, I was at least happy that they were going to use the campaign version so that it can maybe fit more into the map and have a unique camouflage ability that isn't as easy to notice like it was in Cold War. Call of Duty is the king of reusing assets, and I'm just confused why they didn't use the campaign version. It was an objectively better version of the Mimic, but instead they insisted on using the Cold War version, at least in its camouflage ability. The second issue I have is the grab and stun ability. So like I said in the ability breakdown, the Mimics can grab and then apply a stun effect so that you are unable to use what I like to call get out of jail free cards. What I did not say is that these grabs can be stacked so that in the higher rounds you could be grabbed by one Mimic, then stunned, then grabbed by a second Mimic, and then also stunned. And during this entire time, you are unable to use your wonder weapon, your equipment, your specialist, or even gobblegums. And at round 55 plus, this combo basically one-shots you without being able to counter it in any way. And a scenario that happens all too often is that you accidentally shoot a single shot of your ice staff and then don't have enough time to shoot another fully charged shot, temporarily stun the shock mimics, and then they get off their one-shot combo. And in my opinion, that just seems unfair, and nothing I could have done would have saved me in that scenario. In this aspect, it feels like I am at the mercy of the game, whether I live or die, and that just makes it so that the high round experience on this map is no fun. So overall, the gameplay is super subpar, with basically every element of the gameplay having a little bit of good of it, but have a ton of bad to weigh it down. Like, the map layout is bad, but at least the map looks good. I like multiple parts of the Ice Staff quest, but the way that the Ice Staff is designed is just inferior to when it was introduced in Black Ops 2. And even the traps are just alright. But with the gameplay out of the way, let's see how the story and Easter egg holds up. In this map, most of the radios have to deal with a character named Archibald. He is the one that speaks to you throughout the map and during the main Easter egg quest. In the radios, it goes over Archibald's journey in attempting to recover the Sentinel artifact. He was recruited by his good friend Alistair Rhodes to find this Sentinel artifact from the tomb. He talks about things like the arrow trap going off and how his men start to distrust him after many failed attempts to recover the Sentinel artifact. But in the end, he does not succeed, and all of his men die, and he is eventually killed by a mimic. And this is 90% of the radios. And I think that these forms of radios kinda suck. I am not a fan of Archibald as a character, and I think overall, Black Ops 6 has a big issue of introducing one-off characters only for them to be killed or forgotten in the next map. I think if they wanted to continue with this same exact storyline, they could have just had Alistair Rhodes be the person trying to get the Sentinel artifact over Archibald. I really don't think that Treyarch has any plans to use Rhodes in the future, so I think giving this character a final send-off would be nice to 1. Wrap up his story, and 2. Limit the amount of characters that this story has. What I would have liked to see is more mentions of where the Ice Staff came from, or its origins. Right now, we have no information on what the Ice Staff is doing here, and I honestly don't think we're going to get any answers, and I think that is a huge missed opportunity. There is one more radio that I think is significant to talk about, and that is the Gray and Maya radio. In this radio, they just talk about their plans after the mission of returning Sam from the Dark Aether. Maya says she's going to create a team of people whose job it is to save others from the people who took her brother, and recruits Gray to be on this team. And after a bit of convincing, Gray says that she would join Maya on her quest after Sam is saved. And in a vacuum, I do like this radio. It gives much needed development for Gray and Maya, which this story is desperately craving. The only issue I have is Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. Modern Warfare 3 Zombies sets up that our main crew dies only a couple years after the events of Black Ops 6. So to set this up just seems kind of pointless in my opinion. But other than that, I love this radio. I think they definitely need to have more radios involving our main cast going forward. Or characters like Richtofen or Sam. And speaking of Sam and Richtofen, there are a couple radios featuring them, but honestly the information present in the radios aren't too significant, and I honestly don't have too much to say about them. So if you want to listen to any of these radios, I have a link in the description so you can take a listen. This Easter egg gameplay-wise is very simple. Once you have upgraded the Ice Staff, you only have one more step until the boss fight. In this last step, you have 4 challenges with different boss enemies that you have to complete. There's one with the Vermin, the Parasites, the Doppelgast, and the Amalgam. To activate the challenge, you have to use your alternate fire with the Ice Staff on one of the statues in the Dark Aether. And once you pick up the crystal, you can put it to the corresponding statue in the overworld. Each challenge basically boils down into killing the special enemy within a certain time limit. And once you do all 4 of these lockdowns, the boss arena opens up. I actually don't mind this Easter egg being straightforward. I think this map having a simple Easter egg given every other decision is actually smart and it makes a lot of sense. And for what it's doing, I can't dog on it too much. Now, I'll be going on to the boss fight of this map. In this boss fight, you are going up against the Sentinel artifact, which has 3 distinct stages. In stage 1, the Sentinel artifact will shoot this laser that spins around the map and goes up and down a couple of times. After going up and down a couple of times, it moves on to the damage stage, where you have to deal enough damage to it to move on. You do this 4 different times, with each time adding a new laser, until you get to half HP. In the second stage, the Sentinel artifact spawns on an elite enemy, and once the elite enemy is killed, you are onto the damage stage, where you have to deal enough damage in a certain amount of time to take out a chunk of its health. And do this 3 or 4 times, and you complete stage 2. The third and final stage is the insta-kill stage, that you get only 1 attempt to complete. The Sentinel artifact charges up and gives you around 45 seconds to take out the last quarter of its health, which in my opinion is way more than enough time to finish off this boss fight. Now, I have some opinions about this boss fight. I first want to talk about the parts that I am not a fan of. The first issue is this boss fight is over-reliant on damage checks. If you don't know what a damage check is, it is the point in a boss fight where a player must inflict a certain amount of damage within a certain time. If you come into this boss fight with a gun that doesn't do enough damage in this time frame, you are unable to complete this boss fight, no matter what. Also, for some reason, without explanation, the Sentinel artifact is immune to explosive and wonder weapon damage. So on me and my friend's first attempt of this Easter egg, we went into the map with tier 2 pack weapons, with one of us running the Ice Staff and Ray Gun, and the others running the Sallies. So in that game, we lost not because we died, or not because we weren't skilled enough, but because the game decided that we didn't have the correct equipment. But if you come into this boss fight knowing that you need a tier 3 orange rarity bullet weapon, then there's actually a lot to like. This is one of the harder boss fights in Zombies, and without coordination with your team, you won't be able to complete it. It forces you to work with your team and to use the ice staff to deal with zombies and make sure that you guys are sticking together so that you can focus the sentinel artifact when the damage stage opens up. I also really like the boss arena. It gives you a nice area to sit with the ice staff during the first stage, but in the second stage, it gives you a subpar training spot that forces you to worry about the lasers and the boss zombies coming after you. Again, I just like how this boss fight makes you work with your team, but I just hate that I'm unable to use wonder weapons or explosive damage, and how this boss fight is over-reliant on damage checks. After beating the sentinel artifact, you can now claim it, and the outro cutscene starts. And man, this is a divisive one. The only person to speak throughout this entire cutscene is the Sam AI. No words from Gray, no words from Weaver. This cutscene on a first watch is super bizarre to watch given the rest of Black Ops 6, and it really caught me off guard the first time I saw it. Well, since the visuals and voice acting were not really present in this outro cutscene, maybe there's some story to speak of. Well, there's also not much in the story department when it comes to the final cutscene. All we find out is that Sam wants us to come to Liberty Falls to go to Richtofen's mansion so that we can bring the artifact back and that she can help us save Maxis. But this is stuff we already knew. We already knew that we had to find the Sam AI, and we already knew that Sam was at the Liberty Falls mansion. So this cutscene falls not only flat on the quality department, but also on the story perspective. And at this point, the PowerPoint slideshow presentations from Black Ops 4 are looking really good right now. In terms of side Easter eggs, this map actually has a lot to offer, with a ton of unique rewards. The first is the free Pack-a-Punch and then Aether Tool Easter egg. Once entering the Dark Aether, you have to shoot 5 moving rocks within 10 seconds of each other. Once you do that, you are given a free Pack-a-Punch and Ice Ammo mod. And the free Aether Tool just needs you to have an Ice Ammo mod and shoot the 2 waterfalls in the Dark Aether. Depending on what round you do this Easter egg on, will determine what color Aether Tool that you get. If you do this on a lower round, you get a blue Aether Tool. But if you do it on a higher round, you can get all the way up to an orange rarity. I like how these side Easter eggs link into each other. If you do the Pack-a-Punch Easter egg, if you want, you can immediately do the other one as well, because you did the Pack-a-Punch one. You can alternatively wait to do the Aether Tool Easter egg until later on in the rounds so that you can get a better rarity upgrade. This side Easter egg helps when trying to complete the main Easter egg, especially if you're trying to do it on a lower round, and saves you so much money on salvage and upgrades. The free ray gun Easter egg requires you to have a shovel and death perception. Once you have both of these items, you have the chance to dig up glowing orbs from dig piles. Once you have 3 glowing orbs, you take them to this altar near the first ice staff mural and do a mini lockdown. Once completed, you can get the free ray gun and salvage as well. Since you are able to hold both the ice staff and the ray gun, this is a good side Easter egg to have if you are attempting a high round on this map. Just make sure you're not doing the side Easter egg if you're planning on doing the main quest, because since you are unable to damage the boss zombie with wonder weapons, you won't be able to complete it. The golden armor plate Easter egg has taken the throne for my favorite side Easter egg in Black Ops 6. The first step has you go around to these 2 different boxes and melee them open. Once you've done that, you can pick up the items from the boxes and go to the spawn room to complete 2 lockdowns. But these lockdowns are special. Once started, you are brought down to 1 HP, and every time you are hit, it takes away 1 armor plate. And once all 3 armor plates are destroyed, you go down and have to restart the lockdown. Also, a red mist is covering the entire spawn room, so it's harder to see when zombies are coming after you. The first lockdown has you defeat double gas, while the second has you deal with mimics. Once you complete both of the lockdowns, you are rewarded with golden armor, which will regen over time. And I also really like how they removed cheese strats from this side Easter egg. This side Easter egg is a pure test of skill, and if you are unable to complete it, it is just a skill issue and you should just get good. It rewards players who are skillful and can rely on just their weapons and movement, and punishes players who rely more on kill streaks to get through the rounds. Now, before moving on to the conclusions, I have a couple nitpicks to get out of the way. So, am I supposed to be able to get 2 upgraded ice staffs? This is super confusing, and when looking it up, I don't know if anyone really has an answer. It seems to upgrade the second ice staff, you have to complete a couple rounds, but also completing the Easter egg up until the last step also might work. But also, if you just kill zombies in front of the altar, you are able to upgrade the ice staff. So I'm just not sure what triggers it. It seems weird that there isn't a super clear indicator, and I feel like it should be one way, or you should just let us upgrade it the second the first one's upgraded, just like you could in previous maps. I hate that I'm unable to run into portals and have to interact every time I use them. I don't know if it's just my Revelations muscle memory, but it just feels so smooth to just run through the portal. And also, why is there a cooldown? It just seems kind of silly that the traversal has a cooldown, and it being so long. In one of the pieces of intel for this map, Fortnite is spelled wrong. In-game, it is spelled Fortnite. And if you guys know, the actual spelling for the word Fortnite is Fortnight. So they misspelled the word Fortnite as the game Fortnite. I think that's just a silly mistake, and I think it's kind of funny that it's still not patched to this day. I said this earlier in the video, but I am just not a fan of the Origins references. In my opinion, they just feel too nostalgia baity and cheap and don't really add too much to the map. It just makes an unfair comparison to one of the best maps of all time, and this map would be infinitely better without them. Another zombies YouTuber, CJ Santa, came up with an excellent idea and said that instead of using the ice staff, they could have swapped it to the staff of Ra. It would have made more sense with the chaos references, and would turn a specialist weapon into a wonder weapon, which has never been done before. I just wanted to finally mention the elephant in the room, and that's that this map does not have an intro cutscene. I think that kinda sucks, but at the end of the day, it is not the be-all end-all of my overall enjoyment of this map. It just stinks, and I thought that it should be included. So, what do I think about this map overall? Well, I think it's alright. Side Easter eggs are the best that they've ever been. It has a fun to use wonder weapon and Easter egg despite their many flaws. But this map just has so much going against it. The map layout, death perception, poorly designed steps in certain areas, the boss fight, as well as the boss zombies, just makes me not want to come back to this map in the future. As of now, I would rank this as the worst Black Ops 6 Zombies map, and would rank it a little lower than Liberty Falls, and on the overall tier list, would probably put it around a C. Well, what did you think of my review? Let me know in the comments with something you agreed with and liked, and maybe something you disagreed with and didn't like about the video. Also type double tap for Black Ops 6 in the comments to let me know you watched until the end. Bye for now.